From letting $100,000 sit in a savings account while inflation silently eats $20,000 of its value, to putting that same cash in the S&P 500 and watching it grow to over $373,000. These are 10 investments that are keeping you poor. It sounds like peace of mind, just $149 to protect your new laptop for 3 years. Seems smart, right? But these warranties are often glorified scare tactics wrapped in fine print. Here's the psychology. We fear the what if. What if my phone breaks? What if my TV dies in month 13? Companies know this and they sell you an overpriced promise based on anxiety, not statistics. Here's the truth. Most electronics either fail within the manufacturer's warranty or they last far beyond the extended period. Consumer Reports found that people who bought extended warranties actually paid more in total than they saved on repairs. On average, repair costs are less than the cost of the warranty itself, and most issues are covered under basic warranties or are so minor, they're cheaper to fix than the protection plan. Take Kelly, a freelance designer from Portland. She bought a $2,000 laptop and added a $300 accidental damage protection plan. 3 years in, her battery died. The plan didn't cover it. Why? Because battery wear wasn't considered accidental. She paid $180 for a replacement. Her total out of $480. She could have skipped the plan and still come out ahead. So what do smart buyers do instead? They skip the upsell and set aside a small emergency tech fund, just in case. Odds are, you'll barely touch it. And if you don't, that money compounds. Let us say you skip 5 $200 warranties over 10 years and instead invest that $1,000 in an index fund averaging 8% return. Tag a friend who brags about protecting their toaster. We all know one. A free weekend getaway, a beachfront view, champagne in the lobby. And then comes the pitch. Own a slice of paradise for life. Timeshares feel luxurious until you're locked into a financial anchor. The emotional pull, it's about status and stability. I have a place in Seattle. It feels like a step up. But here's what they don't tell you. Timeshares are nearly impossible to resell, loaded with hidden fees, and you don't actually own anything tangible. A 2023 industry report showed that the average timeshare costs $24,000 up front, plus annual maintenance fees around $1,000. And rising, these fees don't disappear when you stop going. And reselling, good luck. Most timeshares resell for just 10 to 15% of the original price, if at all. Case in point, Stephen Lindley from Tampa bought a timeshare in 2016 for $18,000. They used it twice. Then life got busy. They still paid $1,200 a year in fees. By 2022, they tried to sell. After months of waiting and dealing with scams, they paid a company $3,000 just to take it off their hands. Not sell it, get rid of it. Wealthy travelers. They rent luxury spots when and where they want. No strings attached. Flexibility over obligation. They use platforms like Airbnb Looks or Resort Deals, which cost less over time and don't drain your wallet when you're not traveling. And here's the kicker. That $24,000 plus $1,000 a year for 10 years, invested instead, that's over $55,000, all without having to listen to another 90-minute presentation from Chad the sales guy. We're just warming up. The biggest financial heartbreak, that's still coming. It feels responsible. Putting your money in a savings account. No risk, no stress. At least I'm not losing it. But here's the quiet killer. You are losing it. Slowly, silently, every single year. This is the comfort trap. Banks make you feel secure, but most traditional savings accounts offer interest rates of 0.01% to 0.35%. Meanwhile, inflation has averaged 3 to 6% annually in recent years. That gap, that's your wealth quietly eroding while you sleep. Let's get specific. If you park $10,000 in a big bank account earning 0.1% interest, after 1 year, you've made $10. Meanwhile, if inflation is 5%, your money's real purchasing power just dropped to $9,500. You're playing defense in a losing game. Even high-yield accounts at 4 to 5% only barely match inflation. And only when inflation is low. The illusion is safety, but the cost is stagnation. Just ask Noah, a teacher from Chicago. He kept $20,000 in a savings account for emergencies for 5 years. He earned under $200 total. But inflation during that same period wiped out nearly $3,000 of its real-world value. He said, I felt proud until I did the math. So what's the smart move? Keep a small emergency fund 3-6 months of expenses. In a liquid account, the rest, park it in low-risk inflation-beating options. Series 1 bonds, tips, or diversified index funds. Because here's the reality. $10,000 in a low-yield account over 20 years. Subscribe if your bank still sends you saving statements with pride. They know. And now, so do you. It's pitched as the ultimate win-win. Protect your family and build wealth at the same time. Whole life insurance offers a seductive promise. Guaranteed coverage and cash value that grows over time. But peel back the layers, and it's a financial underperformer in disguise. Here's the emotional appeal. People want security, A plan that takes care of your family and builds savings sounds responsible, especially to new parents or high earners looking for smart diversification. But what they're really buying is an overpriced hybrid, part insurance, part low-yield savings account. Let's break it down. Whole life policies often return 1 to 3% annually. After years of high fees, in the early years, the cash value barely grows, and those high premiums, they don't go toward growing your wealth. They mostly pay the insurance company as commissions and operational costs. Take Marcus from Atlanta. He signed up for a $500,000 whole life policy at $550 a month. Here's the smarter play. Buy term life, which covers you for 20 to 30 years at a fraction of the cost, and invest the savings yourself. That keeps you protected and builds actual wealth. Let's do the math. $515 per month invested at 8% over 30 years becomes over $730,000. Freedom, not financial illusion. You're finally upgrading your kitchen, custom cabinets, quartz counters, smart fridge with a screen bigger than your TV. It's not just for us. You say, it'll boost resale value. But here's the truth. Your dream kitchen, probably a nightmare investment. The emotional hook is powerful. We want to enjoy our space, impress guests, and feel like our home reflects success. And TV shows make it worse. Every episode ends with you just added $80,000 in value. But real life isn't HGTV. According to Remodeling Magazine's 2024 data, the average upscale kitchen remodel costs $155,000 and recoups just 42% of that on resale. That's a $90,000 loss dressed up in stainless steel. Take Alicia from Scottsdale. She invested in custom walnut cabinets, Italian marble, and a $12,000 Wolf stove. It looked stunning. But when she sold the house 2 years later, the appraisal bumped her value just $40,000. Nowhere near what she spent. People liked it, she said, but they weren't willing to pay for it. The problem: buyers want clean, functional kitchens, not your style, and trends fade fast. Plus, remodels often raise your property taxes and insurance premiums. Hidden costs on top of an already bad investment. Smart homeowners take a different route. They make mid-range upgrades that offer better returns. Refinished cabinets, new lighting, fresh paint. These often recoup 70 to 90% of costs, and they leave room for buyers to personalize. Numbers. That $155,000 in a remodel gives you back tilde $65,000. That same $155,000 invested for 20 years at 8% becomes $725,000 plus. Comment below if your kitchen investment turned out to be more spice rack than stock return. You're not alone. A college degree is supposed to be a ticket to a better life. More income, more opportunity, more freedom. But not all degrees are created equal, and some come with a price tag that's more punishment than payoff. Here's the emotional sell: prestige. It's a private university, smaller classes, more personal attention. But what they don't mention is the debt and the weak return on that investment, especially from private non-elite institutions. The average private college costs $58,000 a year, including living expenses. That's $230,000 for a 4-year degree. Graduates from many of these schools enter the workforce with $100,000 plus in loans and land jobs that pay $35,000, $50,000. That's not a career path. That's a financial trap. Take Jenna from Denver. She majored in communications at a small private college. She borrowed $128,000 to graduate, landed a $38,000 job, and a decade later, what do the wealthy do differently? They look at ROI, not just branding. They target public universities with strong programs, choose degrees that lead to in-demand careers, and seek out scholarships. Or they skip traditional paths entirely, opting for boot camps, trades, or work experience. Now imagine this: instead of a $230,000 degree, you opt for a $60,000 education and invest the $170,000 difference. At 8% over 25 years, that grows into over $1.1 million. That's not theory, that's math. Shock Shah on the next one. This one makes it look like change. It sounds like the ultimate early mover advantage. Buy a condo before it's built, in a booming area, for a discounted price. By the time it's finished, you've already gained equity, right? Not exactly. This trap plays on fear of missing out. Everyone's moving here. They're building a Whole Foods next door. The glossy brochures, the 3D renderings, the rooftop pool. It feels like a smart play. But pre-construction real estate is loaded with hidden costs, shifting timelines, and dangerous speculation. Developers can delay projects for years, construction costs rise, permits stall, and when the unit is finally ready, market conditions may have changed dramatically. You could be locked into a purchase price well above the new market value. Just ask Brian from Miami. He bought into a luxury tower in 2019, with completion set for 2021. Due to delays and supply chain issues, he got the keys in late 2023. And by then, similar units were selling for $80,000 less than what he agreed to pay. He had no legal way out. Meanwhile, wealthy investors avoid this kind of speculative hype. They buy existing properties in stable markets. They value predictability over promises and cash flow over cosmetic sizzle. And if you had invested that pre-construction down payment, say $80,000 into REITs or an index fund instead, over 4 years at 8%, you'd be looking at $108,000, liquid and stress-free. No phantom rooftops, no half-built hallways. Tag a friend who thinks investing in renderings is safer than reality. They might need this. You've heard the pitch. Our fund beats the market with expert strategy. They show past returns, fancy charts, and suit-wearing analysts pointing at graphs. It sounds smart, it sounds professional, but it's quietly draining your money. Here's the emotional trigger. We love the idea of someone smarter handling our finances. It feels hands-off and sophisticated. But here's what most investors don't realize. The vast majority of actively managed mutual funds fail to outperform the simple, boring S&P 500, especially after fees. According to SPIVA, over a 10-year span, over 85% of actively managed funds underperform the index. Why? High expense ratios, turnover costs, and poor market timing. You're not just paying for expertise, you're paying for friction. Consider Laura from Boston. She invested $100,000 in a high mutual fund with a 1.2% annual fee. Over 20 years, her returns averaged just 5.4% annually. Had she placed that same money in a basic S&P 500 index fund at 8% return, she'd have over $100,000 more just by doing less. The wealthy know this. That's why so many billionaires, including Warren Buffett, recommend low-fee index funds over actively managed ones. It's not sexy, but it's effective. You're not paying someone to try, you're riding the market itself. Let us compare. $100,000 in an index fund at 8% over 30 years equals $1.1 million. Stop throwing money away on rent. That phrase has pressured millions into buying homes before they're financially ready, and often into homes they can't afford. Home ownership feels like stability, but too soon, and it becomes a wealth trap. The emotional pull is intense. Society treats owning a home as a rite of passage. Rent is viewed as wasteful. But what many don't realize is that owning a home comes with massive hidden costs. Property taxes, insurance, maintenance, HOA fees, interest. That $2,000 mortgage, it can easily cost you $3,000 plus a month. Take Jasmine from Phoenix. At 28, she bought a starter home with only 3% down. Between PMI, rising taxes, and repairs, she was spending nearly 60% of her take-home pay just to stay afloat. She had no money left to invest. 5 years later, she sold the house and barely broke even. Meanwhile, savvy renters take a different approach. They rent affordably, save aggressively, and invest the difference. Over time, their net worth grows faster because their money is working, not stuck in walls. Let's look at the math. Say you buy a home with $40,000 down, monthly costs of $3,000, and sell after 5 years with minimal appreciation. You might walk away with $10,000 profit. Maybe, but if you'd rented for $2,000 a month and invested that $1,000 a month difference at 8%, that's $73,000 plus. Owning a home isn't bad, but timing is everything. The financially wise wait until their budget allows for a large down payment and room to invest. Subscribe if you've ever felt pressured to buy because everyone else is. Your money deserves better than peer pressure. It feels like the safest move of all. Cash in the bank, no market risk, no volatility, just stability. But here's the harsh truth. While your money sits quietly in a savings account, inflation is quietly erasing it year after year, day by day. This is the ultimate comfort trap. You tell yourself, I just want to be prepared. You think you're being responsible. But there's a difference between liquidity and stagnation. Most people don't realize that keeping large amounts of cash over long periods is like putting your future on mute. Let's get specific. Inflation in 2022 was over 6%, and in 2023 around 3 to 4%. Meanwhile, that checking account still paying you 0.01%. Even high-yield savings accounts max out around 4 to 5%, barely keeping up. So that $50,000 you safely saved, it's losing $1,500, $2,000 in purchasing power per year. Now meet Greg, a small business owner in Dallas. He kept over $100,000 in cash, just in case. He watched it for years, untouched. Meanwhile, inflation ate over $20,000 of its value. It felt responsible, he said, but now I realize I was bleeding slowly. The wealthy think differently. They keep just enough liquid minus 3 to 6 months of expenses, and the rest, they make it work. Whether in index funds, real estate T-bills, or even I-bonds, they ensure every dollar is earning more than dust. Let's say you left $80,000 sitting idle for 20 years. You'd lose over $40,000 in purchasing power.